Nice to see you. Those are there. Really nice.
No, those games, what is that? They call Sundays at Omaha.
Yeah.
That's just an instructional class for me. I donate. Try to learn a little bit more. It's pretty expensive lessons. The other players don't mind it.
They're happy to see you, huh?
See.
Right. Yeah.
Here we get a poker game.
Should I call to excuse those one at a time or all together? Should they just?
You can do them all together. And then if somebody says somebody's unexcused, then we can go back and do it one at a time. Okay, Dave.
I know.
Actually. To the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great, everybody. Welcome to regular Goldendale City Council meeting for April 1st. Sandy, would you please take roll call?
Yep, Steve Johnston,
Here.
Lauren Meager, Andy Holm,
Here.
and Mylan Walling.
Here.
So we'll need a motion to excuse Theon Wheeler, Ellie Casey, and Danielle Clemens.
I got a text or call from each one of them, letting me know why they wouldn't be here. So, you know, do I have a motion to excuse the three of those?
Yeah, so move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to closed public comment. Is there anybody here or on the Zoom for a public comment to do with agenda business? Now, hearing none, we'll move on to the agenda. I'll need a motion to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. So moved. Second. Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda and the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving right along. We'll move on to presentations. And we have two Jonathans here from KVH. Who wants to take the podium first?
I will tee us up. All right. Well, it is great to be with you this evening. Appreciate the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about what KVH is doing. Jonathan Hatfield, I recognize several of the faces at the table here. I've been with KVH since 2005 and served in a number of capacities there until last October 6th. So just about 6 months ago, took over as the CEO at Clinton Valley Health. And it is an honor to serve with the great people of KVH. We employ over 200 employees, full-time equivalents anyway, at the organization. Last year, we had our best year in our 75 years of existence from a revenue perspective anyway, where we did over $60 million in revenue, gross revenue. And so that's our biggest year ever. And that just speaks to my predecessor and the work that our organization has done to responsibly grow and expand. We've had the opportunity, as most of you know, to absorb and bring in the optometry clinic that Dr. Ogden ran for a number of years here, over 40 years here in Goldendale. We've also opened a dental practice, as you know. We do behavioral health, and we've got just a lot of projects that we're working on even now. Our mission is to provide quality, compassionate healthcare with respectful, personalized service. And that sounds a lot like the mission statement of just about any healthcare organization: quality, compassionate healthcare, respectful, personalized service. But the way we do that is through our values. And so we have a number of values, and we're going to talk about one of those this evening. One of our values is transformational encouragement. Every day, our providers and our staff have the opportunity, as people come through our doors, to offer them encouragement, to make healthy decisions for their lives so they can live the best life that is possible to them. And so we believe strongly in transformational encouragement. We also believe in courageous accountability. We recognize that we, as a public hospital district, are accountable to our community. We're accountable to one another. I'm accountable to Larry Hochter over here, our board president. And so we value the accountability and the trust that's placed in us from that, from our community. And then the last one is radical collaboration. That's our third value, radical collaboration. So internally, we talk about not having information silos and working seamlessly across the organization. But even bigger than that, we want to be great collaborators in our community and beyond. And one of the men and one of our workers that exemplifies that is Jonathan Lewis. And so Jonathan Lewis is going to talk a little bit about the work that we've done and the work that our organization continues to do that's collaborative. And the collaboration comes in with Jonathan Lewis has secured, or has been instrumental in securing millions of dollars in funding, both at the state, federal, and then other foundations level. So we have a project right now, and he'll talk about a little bit with our central utility plant that is an over $10 million project, and well over $6 million of that has been funded through those grants. And so there's opportunities for collaboration with our partners here in the area to be able to secure funding in creative ways. And then Jonathan is also passionate about delivering on that funding, delivering the projects that we've been entrusted with. So this evening, I'm going to stop there, and Jonathan is going to come up, and he is going to talk about some of the projects that KVH has undertaken and give you a little roadmap for where we are and where we're going.
Right?
All right.
Tag, you're it. Well, thanks for having us here. I was talking with Dave about some of these projects and kind of mainly the one on the last page, which I'll say for the last. And he said, well, why don't you just give an update to all of them? So here we are. Wondering how many of you are getting younger? We're as young as we're going to be today. And the same thing is true with our hospital facility. Much of the bones that we're working with today were put in 1949, 75 years ago. And we're needing to update those things and move on as a hospital. Also because none of us are getting younger, and I know I'm going to need hospital services in ways in the future that I can't even imagine right now. I want to make sure that those services are available and that facility is running and functioning properly for the future. So that's kind of the motivation behind what I do, and been at the hospital now for 7 years. And when I first got there, started evaluating, what are we working with? What are the bones? What needs to be replaced? And then systematically making a plan for getting those things that were really necessary to be replaced, fixed. A lot of it around efficiency and, how can we get funding to help with that? So that ends up being energy related things, the different grants that are available. So I wrote this up for you guys so you kind of walk through the projects and get some of the background. You know that we've gone to the community 4 times now for the bond. And I put down, kind of our batting average for each season that we were out there. Our closest was 2021, where we just missed it by 28 votes. And that 60% supermajority is really hard to go for. But all along, each of those years, we refined the plans and moved a little further with the architect until right now we have 100% designed drawings. And that's about a $700,000 investment that we've made in those drawings to get that ready to go. So right now we're kind of sitting back, licking our wounds a little bit. What are we going to do going forward to pass the bond, to pivot, maybe do something a little different, scale things down? Everything's on the table. We're also looking for potentially other ways that we could get it funded through federal money or state money or something that maybe is not the community. But we feel, because of the state of our existing acute care wing, the 2 things that we're trying to replace with the bond are the acute care wing and the surgery clinic. Both of those have space from 1949 and then renovated in the 60s and the 80s, but it's well past its safe, functional life. So we need to replace it. So we're really committed to moving this project forward some way. So that's just kind of an update on that one. The hydrogen fuel cell is an innovative thing that we're trying to do. Reached out to Representative Mossbrucker 3 years in a row to try and replace our aging generators that were from World War II, and our electrical infrastructure on the north side was really unsafe. So that 3rd year, the lobbyist for KPUD said, if you add a fuel cell to this project, I bet you could get this project, and it worked. The fuel cell will back up some of the critical things in the acute care wing. It is very innovative. The Toyota makes the fuel cell itself, and then Kohler integrates it into the package that we're buying. They just released about 3 weeks ago, their partnership between Toyota and Kohler, and that Clickitat Valley Health was getting their first, fuel cell ever. So that's been a big deal. It's gotten quite a bit of press, in the facilities kind of world. So we're excited about that. Fuel cell is run by hydrogen. It takes hydrogen and through an electrochemical process converts it into electricity that can back up our system. So the hydrogen storage has been challenging to permit. We've been working with Michael and the Center for Hydrogen Safety and NOAA, trying to get everybody up to speed with what's going on there to make sure it's safe and built well. So I'm sure you'll hear more about that project. The other one is related to that because the central utility plant includes those electrical upgrades, the hydrogen fuel cell. We're building a new building right now, right in front of the hospital. So you'll begin to see it, the bricks start going up in the next few weeks. It's a central utility plant that'll have our chillers inside of it and a cooling tower on top. So it'll look very industrial. We'll change the face of KVH definitely. And then upgrading the electrical systems, new burners on our boilers, new condensing boilers, new hot water tanks, really big upgrades. And then when they built the wing in 2006, they kind of went on the less expensive side. So they basically put baseboard heaters up in our ceiling to reheat the air as it's coming through. So it's not the most efficient way to do it. And then the air handler on the roof is a standalone air conditioning unit. So again, not the most efficient way to do it. And that the refrigerant in there is now not this tight you're supposed to be using, that sort of thing. So we're going to replace that unit on the roof and then re-pipe that emergency department wing with hydronic, with water, heated and cooled water that will run that wing. So big project. That's the $10 million project that Jonathan was talking about. 6.5 million of it is grant funded, and you can see the layout on there. The next one will be interfacing with the city some as it moves forward. And I kind of laid out on this second page here, the background, kind of how we got to this microgrid concept. The idea is to have this highly resilient district where the idea came out of the monastery fire in 2013, maybe, when DNR came and they did their base center at the high school. So we would go for community updates on the project. All the commanders were there, and then they had a little tent village out front. So this idea of having a space that was there and going to have power no matter what. Forest could be burning down, Cascadia Rising could happen, a huge earthquake, BPA's out. We wanted this space where we could have cooling centers, warming centers, command centers in the school district, and then the hospital running. So this microgrid will tie the school district buildings and the hospital together in one electrical infrastructure. It'll still be tied to KPUD. So it'll have a megawatt of solar, 8 megawatt hours of batteries, huge shipping container full of batteries. Again, we'll be dealing with fire and all kinds of exciting stuff. So over several years, developing this project, moving along, got a feasibility study grant and on and on and on. Finally, got it baked enough where we put in a FEMA application for the FEMA BRIC grant. A few months ago, we were notified that we're on the short list. We basically have the funding set aside for our project, and now we're in the vetting process with FEMA. It's a 2-stage project. So once we're done vetting, which should be in the next month or so, we'll go into the design phase and get everything dialed in, come to the city and say, this is where the trenches are going to go, work with those easements, work with the PUD on the interconnection agreement, all those things. The design phase will probably take about a year. And then if that's all approved by FEMA, then we would go into the construction. So super exciting project. Again, very innovative. It'll have the fuel cell tied into it and our existing generators. So any questions on any of those little things we got going? Okay, so I saved the best for last. This one, I met with Carl and Larry. when I first got to the hospital, so 2017-ish. And my office faces right out of Roosevelt, and I would watch people just scream through that intersection. The stop sign has been there since 2004 or 5, but somehow it just hasn't registered with people that there's a stop sign at that intersection. So people go really fast, and then when you're driving up Allen Street, it's pretty steep for a ways, and then it plateaus off. And Carl said that that's kind of out of compliance for visibility. You can't see far enough down that road when you're driving up that hill, especially around equinox when the sun is just right there. And then coming the other way, that road is pretty steep when you're going toward the intersection. So when it's icy, you see people just right on through the intersection down Allen. So everybody have the orientation. Allen Street is the one that tees off Roosevelt and heads up past the hospital there towards those districts. And then we have the employee parking on the other side of that. So we have staff walking across that street. So at that time, I started thinking, you know, what if the entrance to the hospital came off Roosevelt and we got rid of some of that slope, came into the hospital around, and both Larry and Carl thought that was feasible at the time. Talked with Pat since then, and he thought that it would be feasible. They kind of laid out, you know, we'd have to get a really baked in design put together and then bring it to the council. So this is just kind of a heads up bringing to the council. And then we'd have to do public comment for all the people who are back there and kind of show them, you know, this is how you would get to your neighborhood at this time. There would still be an entrance into the KVH parking from the Garfield side on Allen. We would just take that one section from Allen, from Roosevelt to Garfield. Yeah, Garfield. And then because of that conversation with Carl and Larry, we purchased that little house on the corner in order to give us the expandability. The other situation, when you're going up to the hospital, all of those ADA parking spots are out of compliance. They all have a pretty good slope to them. So I watch little old ladies with their walkers, you know, really struggling with their doors because the slope is wanting to close the door, the wind, everything else. So this would give us the ability to come up on a slope on the outside, the Roosevelt side, and then everything else would be flat across there. So when I'm looking at grant opportunities for something like this, there's not a whole lot out there, but it falls under several grants for transportation type grants. The Department of Transportation in Washington State has grants for getting to and from critical infrastructure, like your schools and hospitals and things. So that's kind of my ask, is that the city council directs Pat to collaborate with the hospital on pursuing a grant for a planning grant to help put this project together. As you can see there's no sidewalks up Allen Street right now. So we want to make a safe, viable way to get in and out of the hospital. Again, this is pretty long-term. We don't have the $3-4 million it's going to take to do this project, but we can't even know what that number is or pursue any other opportunities until we get the planning done.
Now, we would obviously need to have the city council agree to do the vacate of that street. We would need to do that before grants were applied for, and what, you know, I'm trying to make sure we don't put the cart before the horse per se, I suppose.
Yeah, I imagine that that's a
It'll
possibility.
be an ongoing conversation.
Yeah.
Be having, and
my thought is, you know, the city council would want to see more, because the planning grant would give us documents
yeah,
that would show, you know, this is what the entrance is going to look like. This is how the traffic would go through. So I think we could get that planning grant, spend that money, and then ask the city council. But you might be right. It might be better just,
well,
oh yeah, we're good to go.
it's another thing for us.
But I don't think we necessarily want to go through a public hearing process and everything without that plan in place.
Right.
What plan?
I understand. I know you are.
Well, Mayor, I just,
Yes.
now the stop signs that are on Roosevelt, is that? Number of people who can complain about that, would they recommend that the city authorize to take those out? Or is that still
They weren't there, then they got put in, and there's a few people who just pretend they're still not there, right? And so
Yeah.
we're not asking to remove those, I think that people just go screaming down that street if that stop sign wasn't.
I know it.
Police force needs some more revenue. Just park right there, and you can break it in all the way around.
Radar gun right there, yeah. All those California stops there, yeah.
Well, because Roosevelt's it's a steep slope going up to the intersection, so you took those stop signs out. They got put in because there were so many traffic accidents.
Oh, they were, huh?
So,
Okay.
because for some reason we use stop signs instead of streetlights,
Yeah.
which I think are more effective. You almost need both at an intersection like that, just because that intersection is always a high traffic, because you got ambulance coming there. You got people coming into the hospital, so there's a lot of traffic in and out, and Roosevelt is a main street from
Yeah.
Simcoe all the way to Broadway.
Okay.
And that
Yeah.
entrance into the hospital is weird too. People, they don't like turn and then turn into a hospital. They just go "Wah,"
Yeah.
right through, and you could have somebody coming out with their horse trailer. 40-foot horse trailer at the same time. It gets crazy in there.
Yeah. Well, I heard a number of comments over the years about that, so.
No, they need to revamp that whole section.
Yeah.
I mean,
Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
I think if the funding's there and if we're able to vacate that street, I think that's a good option. To make that better for the hospital and it'd make traffic flow better too. It's my opinion.
Steve.
Well, and I'm with Jonathan here as far as waiting until we see the plan.
Yeah.
And we see something solid. I am not a big advocate for vacating streets, as you guys know. So until we see the plans and actual feasibility
Right.
for that, I'll just hold my tongue and wait.
Yeah. How about a nod towards Pat to have him work on some transportation grants?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, a collaborative effort,
Yeah.
because like you were explaining to me before, it'd be up to the city to apply for some of these grants, but we would do it with you.
Exactly. Like the hospital can't apply.
Yeah.
Like they're reserved for municipalities.
Yeah.
So, it'd be something we'd have to collaborate on.
Yeah.
Go to that funding.
Yeah, I think that's something we can definitely work on with you, especially if you hold our hand through it.
Yeah. You purchased that little house in the corner there. I assume you're gonna tear it down and.
It has no foundation. It's, right. It would become probably more parking over there.
Okay. Yeah, it makes you see the plans.
Right.
Yeah.
Me too.
I sure appreciate it, Jonathan. Anybody else have any questions or comments regarding this? We know what it takes to have a city be a functional, good, well living city. We know, we're in charge of police department, fire, public works, but we also know that if we want to have a good city where people have a good quality of life to live, we need a good hospital and schools and everything. So what's good for KVH and our local hospital is good for the city of Goldendale. You need us and we need you. So I really look forward to working with you on this. I think it's worthwhile.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to carve out the number of votes from city limits. It's much, much higher.
Yeah.
People who live in the city realize what they've got and they really support us. I love this quote here from the American Hospital Association guy. There are 61 million Americans who live in rural areas. The hospital is the lifeblood of the community. Often it is the only source of emergency, preventative, and specialized care within hundreds of miles. But the Blue H also is a major employer and a pillar of the community's economic and social fiber. Thank you all.
There's no doubt. Thank you, Jonathan.
Mhm.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Okay, great. Well, we'll move on to council business, department reports next. Let's start with Fire Chief Noah Holm.
Thank you, Mayor. All I really got is we're gearing up, I know it sounds pretty early, but we're starting to get everything ready to go for wildland fire season. It's just right around the corner. It's nice weather that we're having, but supposed to change, it sounds like. But we are gearing up. We got a grant for a pump and a front spray monitor on one of our brush trucks. It is almost complete. Waiting on me to buy a part, but anyway, it's almost complete and ready to go. So we're gearing up for that. So.
Great, thank you, Noah. Police Chief Mike Smith.
Yeah, well, as you guys know, it's been with CNN News or Facebook, it's been pretty busy with we had the double stabbing situation. Took up pretty much our whole department. I had about 45 hours of overtime that I had to issue out for that. Case is done, bad guys in jail. We also had the assistant the county, they had a double homicide out in the county. They're still investigating that. With that, we're still down one officer. I'd like to propose to the council to reinstate the sign-on bonus for a lateral. I've had 2 entry levels apply, but I've had no response from any lateral officers. The last 2 lateral officers that we got were because of the sign-on bonus that brought them to the department. There's a few that are on the fence right now that I think would apply or want to come over with that bonus. I think it's a good incentive to bring a new officer that's already trained. It saves us double that funds to be able to get them as a lateral versus sending somebody new to the academy. On the process, they'd be ready to work and go. And with summer coming up, it's not getting any less busy with that. So I just propose that if that's, I'm not sure what process to add that back on. That needs to be voted on or can be done.
I think it's instated until the end of 24, isn't it?
Okay, so we're at 23.
I thought it was a 2-year to look.
In the last contract I'd seen, it was over the end of the year,
Okay.
2023. So
Probably the best way to do that would be to draw up something and get it on the next agenda for
Okay.
council approval. Being as how it's not on the agenda here, to give the council members all an opportunity to look it over and make a decision on that. We'll get that on the next council meeting agenda.
and also with I got notified on Friday that the jail's talking about closing. I'm not sure, I don't have much information about that. It was a last minute thing that I was involved in, just being notified. I'm not sure the facts and circumstances. I know there's another meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the commissioners meeting room. It's open for the public. As of right now, with our contract, we do have a contract with the jail that, according to Bob, is still in effect. How that will influence my department is going to be dramatic. We do not have the resources to transport inmates to North Port. So I'm not sure what they've thought through that. I haven't been advised of that. So for some reason, they didn't find it appropriate to let the other agencies be involved in that decision. I know there's 5 other agencies that are involved in that. Ourselves, White Salmon, Clayton County Sheriff's Department, Washington State Patrol, and Department of Corrections all use the local jail here. And so it will be pretty detrimental to our department, just for the fact of, calling people in, how we're going to arrange felony crimes versus misdemeanor crimes. We do have some mandatory arrests that misdemeanor crime, DUI, domestic violence that are mandatory arrests. Right now, you cannot take a misdemeanor across state lines for extraditional purposes. And so I'm not sure how they're going to work that out. We may have to enter in our own contract with Northport or another jail, either Skamania County or possibly Sunnyside, which would be further transportation issues. So just the heads up on that. I don't know where it's going to go, but just so everybody's on board, as I get information, I'll relay that to the council and the mayor. We'll kind of play out how it plays out. So other than that, it's going great.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. Okay, Sandy, did you have anything for us today?
We're almost done with our logo, so
Oh, yes.
on the final draft of it. So we had some other last minute changes. Just gonna make a couple drafts of that last one that we discussed, and then we'll bring it for a presentation to let you look at it. So,
Exciting.
yeah,
Great.
it's looking good.
Thank you, Sammy. Okay, well, next item on the agenda under council business is a proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. And I'll go ahead and read this proclamation and then I'll ask for a motion. Okay, and they've made this small print, didn't they? Okay. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services. And whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of emergency personnel is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our emergency responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the Klickitat County Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our emergency responders by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them critical information and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety communicators, officers of the Klickitat County Department of Emergency Management have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each communications officer has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor David Jones of the City of Goldendale, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the laws of the City of Goldendale and Washington State, do hereby proclaim April 14th through the 20th to be Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligent and professionalism keep our citizens safe. So that's the proclamation, and I'd like to get a motion to approve me signing that
I
proclamation.
move to approve the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2024 National Public Safety Telecommunications Week and authorize the mayor to assign presented proclamation recognizing National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to say that, I know a lot of the dispatchers up there do a great job. I know I used to be one and it's one heck of a job to do.
Again, any other comment or discussion? Oh, hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
I
Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we have no ordinances. Next up is report of officers. We'll start over here with Councilmember Steve Johnston.
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple items I'd like to bring up relative to traffic safety and a short update on the traffic safety committee meeting we had a couple of weeks ago. We talked about a number of traffic pedestrian related issues. And the one thing that we noticed they all had in common was the ordinances that are relative to those. And there was a suggestion made that we send some of those to the ordinance committee for review. And I was wondering if that's gotten any traction yet.
We do need to call a meeting of the ordinance committee and go over those, and maybe we'll have
Mike is more than ready to sit
Yeah.
down with the committee and talk about a lot of help. He knows he's the boots on the ground. And so he knows what direction this needs to go.
now who's on the ordinance committee?
I think I am.
Myland, Ellie, and Lauren.
Well, let me send out an email and we'll try to come up with a good time to meet And we'll get an agenda put together for that, and I'll get with you and police chief, and I'll create an agenda for that meeting so it'll be productive. In the meantime, here in the next couple of days, I'll send out an email to that committee. And we'll come to an agreement on when to have a meeting, since Ellie's not here right now. And we'll get going on that.
Yeah, because we've discussed before how important the ordinances are. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we function on, and that's the only thing we can function on. And so they gotta have the proper language, they gotta be updated eventually, regardless. So
Yeah.
that was the common thread that came up to. And I'd also like to revisit the speed control options that we've talked about already before on two streets specifically. Northeast High Street and Washington Street. I've gotten citizens' complaints about people speeding. You know, and it's kind of like what Jonathan mentioned about. I remember when we put the stop signs up there, made that a four-way stop. We thought that was a good idea. I still think it was a good idea. But what he illustrated there was the lawlessness we got. People are, I don't know what's going on. They blow by school buses when they're loading children, you know, and they totally disregard stop signs and speed limits. And Northeast High Street is part of that walking trails and all that. A lot of children playing along there. Well, one of our council members lives on Washington Street, and she's mentioned it herself. And I live on Northeast High Street. I'm out in my yard a lot. And thank goodness it's not all, well, there's a lot of traffic there. A lot of people come off into town from the north, come across there. And a lot of them will come through the intersection there and go up there as opposed to go, because if they're going out Pipeline, it's easier. So it gets a lot of traffic. And no, I've seen 10-yard dump trucks. I seen a 35-foot motorhome go by my place at about 60 miles an hour the other day. You know, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when something goes haywire. And I'd really like to visit the speed control options that we've discussed. We'll get crunch some numbers, see what we can do about that. We will appreciate it, and I know a lot of other people would appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, we'll work on that.
Thank you, Darren.
Okay, thanks, Steve. Lauren.
No report.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. Andy.
This is a question for Sandy. I know we're already working on this, but I had a friend ask me about when we're gonna get the video of the council meetings online.
As soon as we get our new website.
Okay, just wanted to make sure on that.
Nicole was gone for a week. They had a toss product, something in Nashville or somewhere. So she's been gone for a week. And so we had a few changes from the last meeting that we had with her. So as soon as they get that done, then all of that will be put on there. It sounds like what we'll do is we'll start a YouTube account. We'll put the videos via YouTube and then put that link on our website. Otherwise, that's a lot of gigabytes, megabytes, whatever on there to hold the videos, because they are a really heavy file. So that sounds like what Nicole said was the best idea. And so that will take place as soon as that's up and running. She was hoping to have it done by March 1st, but obviously that's not there yet. And so I think we're also kind of waiting on the logo to replace all the old logos on there.
Okay.
So that way it's all put up. I believe we're supposed to have the new logo probably by the end of this week, because we just gave her our changes today. So, and there weren't a lot of changes, just a little bit. So she's working on that, but it should be getting down there.
No, I just want to also say something about the jail being closed. I mean, I know we don't have much say in it per se, but I just think that's an absolute shame. I think it's something that could hurt us as a city, but then you have people that are going to be out of jobs. You got a whole long list of problems, but I just can't believe they just chose that. So I'll just leave it at that.
I don't know if that is an absolute yet.
Yeah, well, the thought of it is, I mean, two of the commissioners want it to happen. That's kind of bad for Goldendale and the county, but Yeah, that's all y'all.
Thank you, Andy. Mylan.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mayor. No, I just want to continue. We're working on the airport and we're having another meeting. Well, I guess that's gonna be on the 18th, but then anyway, we're keeping in touch and we're continue working on it. And we're making a lot of progress on it. That's all I have.
Great, thanks, Mylan. Yeah, so the only thing I had to present to you today is from Mackenzie Coleman, who is works at the county. And she emailed me this. She said, I am reaching out to you today regarding the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for Klickitat County. It is required to have a council member representing the city of Goldendale. We're hoping to have the first meeting in March. And quarterly meetings after that, unless more deemed necessary by the committee. The membership term is 3 years. And so if anybody is interested in sitting on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee or want to learn more about what that is, let me know and I'll share with you what I know about it. Anyways, and that's all I had. Next item on the agenda is open public comment. Is there anybody here in the crowd or on the line for public comments? Open public comment, anything you want to talk about.
Luke,
We'll
did
hear
you
it.
still have a question?
My question was for Jonathan Lewis. It was regarding whether or not, did he say that it was the first hydrogen cell they've ever given out and it's coming to Goldendale? Did I hear that correctly? Can anybody confirm that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, that's pretty amazing. Where can we learn more about that?
I can send you some links, Luke.
That would be outstanding. Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so
you bet.
much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else here or on the line for public comments?
Nope.
Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
All right.
all right.
Okay, adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Short meeting, I like that.